Senator Udall, and then Senator Flake is after Senator Udall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, welcome to all of you on the panel. I want to turn to my governor, who provided an initial, very insightful summary of what's happening in Colorado. We have seen a big economic boost from the current oil and gas boom. As the governor mentioned, it's also brought some challenges in our neighborhoods and communities. We've seen additional drilling and concerns from our citizenry, and I think the governor and I both believe that there's a great economic opportunity here, but our number one priority is to protect the health and well-being of our citizens. And we hear a lot about fracking and drilling, and there's some efforts underway that have been challenging in Colorado when it comes to those communities' rights versus the state's rights versus the industry's rights. Governor, would you speak, because you're, I know, going to field and have already some questions on how we balance all this, but speak in particular the fugitive emissions questions that have been raised. There was a study that the EPA released last week that concluded that oil and gas operations are the second largest emitter of methane in the country. You've spoken about the need to eliminate fugitive methane emissions so we can get that full environmental benefit. Would you share with the committee what your vision is for how we do that? And
the issue around methane is crucial because fugitive methane is very harmful to our environment, and even as you burn gasoline, compressed natural gas is cleaner than gasoline, but if you allow fugitive methane to escape from where it's collected and then during transportation, and then more importantly where it is put into vehicles or used by whether it's commercial facilities or wherever, if that's escaping, we lose much of the environmental benefit. And the one beauty of this is you don't have to push industry too far to let them recognize this is something that they can sell, right? This is a product that has real value, and that a higher level of regulatory oversight to make sure that we measure fugitive methane really allows them to benefit long term by making those infrastructure investments. We're doing a $1.5 million project right now through Colorado State University. We're going to go out to a couple of our largest fields, but eventually within 2 years we will have measured the air quality at different times of the day, at different seasons in most of our major oil producing parts of the state, so that we can actually demonstrate what are the real, not just the estimates, but what are the real consequences of this and how much methane is escaping, and get ourselves back down to a zero tolerance. And most of the responsible oil and gas producers recognize the imperative of this, and they willingly accept that regulatory environment.
Thank you, Governor. If I might, I'd like to ask Ms. Beinecke for her thoughts on fugitive emissions. I know, Francis, you've really taken a close look at this.
Well, we have, Senator, thank you for asking. Our concern is, we have concerns about all the air emissions coming from natural gas. Methane is a particular concern because of its potency as a climate-forcing emission. So we think that the measurement that's going on now, trying to find out where the methane is leaking from, putting forth the technologies to stop it as quickly as possible is absolutely imperative to protecting the climate. We're also concerned with the other air emissions coming from fracking, particularly from the trucking operations, diesels. There are people all across the country who are concerned about what they're being exposed to. They don't know exactly. We need ongoing air monitoring, and I'm happy to hear the governor saying that that's something that Colorado is going to be doing, because there's a huge gap between the information that the public has and what is happening in their own communities. And until we as a country take that on and address it head on, there's just a huge conflict between the opportunity that people here have identified with natural gas and the concern that people have about their health and well-being in their own homes. And I'm just saying that is growing so quickly across the country. We hear from people each and every day, and just a poll that Bloomberg did in January showed that 66% of people in the country wanted stronger protections from fracking, and that went up from 55% in September. So this is an issue that is really exploding in the public mind, and they need to know that you will all take on their concerns and put in place those safeguards that will assure them that they're protected in the future.
As the governor pointed out, these are industrial processes, and we've all become comfortable with the industrial zones around our cities and wherever they may be located. But when those industrial processes come to people's backyards and schoolyards and community areas. It has really drawn people's attention.
I wanted to, the NRDC released a study recently that found that by 2025, taxpayers will be forced to spend more than $270 billion a year for disaster relief if we don't tackle climate change. And so while we're having this conversation about natural gas, I don't know if you can make a further comment on that, but don't we obviously, if we're going to see cost in the future, don't we have to do something better,
Well,
putting a true market price on carbon?
Senator Cantwell, first, thank you for the question. Clearly, we are seeing climate impacts now. Our study was projecting to the future, but here in this country just this year, the consequences of Hurricane Sandy, which the Senate just passed, what was it, $60 billion of disaster relief for the New York metropolitan area, is a huge expense. The drought that's been going on in the Midwest all year, another huge expense, almost stopped shipping in the Mississippi River just a few short weeks ago. The consequences of wildfires in the West. We are having extreme weather events all across the country, and I was talking to Mr. Liveris earlier today about what's been happening in Australia, his home country, where the extreme weather events have been even more serious. So climate change is here. We need to take it seriously. We have to get to a clean energy future that invests in renewables and efficiency. Even as we use natural gas, it's not the solution over the long term because it is a fossil fuel. We have to develop it as responsibly as possible. There are people who are so alarmed with what's happening unknowingly to their health because of the lack of disclosure and the lack of safeguards. So we have to deal with the consequences now, but and this is of course the committee's charge, is to deal with the long-term energy future of the country and look at what the investments we need to make in a clean energy future that absolutely minimize the impacts of climate change, some of which we will experience. Our aim is to ensure that this nation experiences as few as possible and that the planet does as well. And the U.S. is a major contributor, so we have a major leadership role to play.
So thank you for that. I mean, I know we're talking about this discussion now about, what to do price-wise, export, import, but to me it seems like a microcosm of a larger issue, which is
Exactly.
how to put the right signal on in general.